I don't think people understand the magnitude of what happened at Chernobyl. At 1:23 a.m. on April 26, 1986, the world as we knew it changed forever. In the heart of what was then the Soviet Union, a catastrophic explosion ripped through reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, sending shockwaves across the globe. Located near the city of Pripyat in present-day Ukraine, Chernobyl became synonymous with nuclear disaster and human error, a haunting reminder of the potential dangers of nuclear energy. The events of that fateful night would have far-reaching consequences, impacting millions of lives and shaping the future of nuclear energy policies worldwide. The explosion released a plume of radioactive material into the atmosphere, 30 times more radioactive material than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, creating an unprecedented environmental catastrophe. It spread across vast swaths of the Soviet Union and Europe, contaminating land, water, and air, and affecting countless communities. The disaster forced the evacuation of Pripyat, a city built to house the power plant workers and their families, turning it into a ghost town overnight. It exposed the world to the terrifying reality of a nuclear meltdown and the devastating effects of radiation poisoning, which would haunt survivors for years to come. This is the story of Chernobyl, a tale woven from human error, scientific miscalculation, and the incredible courage of those who fought an invisible enemy, risking their lives to contain the disaster. It is a story that continues to unfold even today as we grapple with the long-term consequences of the disaster and the lessons it taught us about the power and peril of the atom, reminding us of the delicate balance between progress and safety. The Chernobyl disaster was not a single event, but the culmination of a series of flaws, both human and technological. These flaws existed in both the design of the RBMK-1000 reactor and the culture of secrecy and complacency that permeated the Soviet nuclear industry, creating a perfect storm. The RBMK-1000 was a reactor type unique to the Soviet Union, designed to produce plutonium for nuclear weapons alongside electricity, a dual purpose that added complexity. It was known to have inherent design weaknesses, particularly in its control rods and emergency shutdown system, which were critical for safe operation. Adding to the technological vulnerabilities was a workplace environment where safety protocols were often disregarded and violations were common. There was immense pressure to meet production quotas and a pervasive culture of fear that discouraged individuals from raising concerns or reporting issues. This combination of technical shortcomings and human fallibility created a dangerous cocktail, setting the stage for a disaster waiting to happen, a ticking time bomb. The Chernobyl power plant, despite its inherent risks, was considered a source of immense pride for the Soviet Union, a symbol of its industrial might. It was a symbol of the nation's technological prowess and its ambition to become a leading energy provider, showcasing Soviet engineering. However, beneath the facade of progress and achievement lurked a dangerous reality. A flawed system operated by individuals under immense pressure to deliver results at any cost, often ignoring the potential consequences. On April 25, 1986, a routine safety test was scheduled at Chernobyl's reactor number 4. The test was intended to simulate a power failure and evaluate the reactor's backup cooling system. However, a series of miscommunications, violations of safety procedures, and design flaws combined to create the perfect storm. The test began with a reduction in power output, as planned. However, due to a design flaw in the reactor, the power output dropped to a dangerously low level. Operators, attempting to rectify the situation, made a critical error by disabling several automatic safety systems. This action, intended to regain control, ultimately made the reactor highly unstable. As the situation spiraled, a power surge occurred, leading to a sudden and uncontrolled chain reaction. The reactor's core overheated rapidly, causing a massive steam explosion that blew the heavy concrete lid off the reactor building. The explosion exposed the reactor core to the open air, releasing a deadly cloud of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The explosion at Chernobyl was not a nuclear blast in the traditional sense. It was a steam explosion, caused by the rapid buildup of pressure within the reactor vessel as the overheated core vaporized the cooling water. However, the consequences were just as devastating. The explosion sent shockwaves across the surrounding area, collapsing parts of the reactor building and starting numerous fires. Debris, some of it highly radioactive, was scattered across the power plant site. What remained of the reactor core was exposed, burning like an open furnace and spewing radioactive material into the air. First responders arrived at the scene within minutes, unaware of the invisible danger they faced. Firefighters, believing they were battling a conventional fire, fought valiantly to extinguish the flames, unaware that they were being showered with lethal doses of radiation. Their bravery and sacrifice in those crucial early hours undoubtedly prevented a greater catastrophe. Unlike the immediate devastation of the explosion, the effects of radiation were insidious and invisible. Radiation poisoning, a silent killer, began to take its toll on those exposed. The first responders, firefighters, and plant workers were the first to experience the debilitating effects. Symptoms of radiation sickness, including nausea, vomiting, and weakness, soon emerged. The invisible enemy attacked at a cellular level, damaging DNA and disrupting vital bodily functions. As the days turned into weeks, the true extent of the disaster became horrifyingly clear. The Chernobyl disaster released a cocktail of radioactive isotopes, each with its own unique properties and health risks. Iodine-131, with its short half-life, posed an immediate threat to the thyroid gland, particularly in children. Cesium-137 and strontium-90, with longer half-lives, contaminated the environment, posing long-term risks to human health and the ecosystem. In the face of unimaginable danger, ordinary men and women displayed extraordinary courage and selflessness. The liquidators, a team of over 600,000 people, were tasked with the Herculean task of containing the disaster and mitigating its consequences. These heroes, many of them volunteers, worked tirelessly in extremely hazardous conditions. They cleared debris, decontaminated the surrounding area, and built a massive concrete sarcophagus to entomb the destroyed reactor, containing the deadly radiation within. The human cost of the Chernobyl cleanup was immense. Many liquidators received high doses of radiation, leading to long-term health problems, including cancer and other radiation-related illnesses. Their sacrifice, often made with little regard for their own safety, prevented a far greater catastrophe and saved countless lives. The story of Chernobyl is not just a tale of disaster, but also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It is a story of ordinary people performing extraordinary acts of bravery and self-sacrifice in the face of an invisible enemy. Their actions, driven by a sense of duty and humanity, ensured that the world did not witness an even greater tragedy. The legacy of their courage continues to inspire and remind us of the power of collective effort in overcoming seemingly insurmountable challenges. In the immediate aftermath of the explosion, the Soviet government faced a crisis of unimaginable proportions. Initially, there was a reluctance to acknowledge the scale of the disaster. Information was tightly controlled, and the outside world was kept largely in the dark about the true extent of the disaster. The evacuation of Pripyat, a city of nearly 50,000 people, began 36 hours after the explosion. Residents were told they would be able to return in a few days, unaware that their city would become a ghost town, frozen in time. The Soviet government, while eventually mobilizing a massive cleanup effort, faced criticism for its initial secrecy and its handling of the disaster. The Chernobyl disaster exposed the shortcomings of the Soviet system, particularly its lack of transparency and its centralized decision-making process. It highlighted the dangers of a culture of secrecy, where information was suppressed and dissenting voices silenced. The Chernobyl disaster had a profound and lasting impact on the environment. The explosion and subsequent release of radioactive material contaminated a vast area encompassing over 1,000 square miles. The exclusion zone, a restricted area surrounding the power plant, remains largely uninhabited to this day. The immediate impact of the disaster was devastating. Forests surrounding the power plant turned a reddish-brown color, earning the nickname Red Forest. Wildlife populations were decimated by radiation poisoning. The long-term effects on the ecosystem are still being studied, but the disaster undoubtedly had a profound impact on the region's biodiversity. The Chernobyl disaster served as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of human activity and the natural world. It highlighted the devastating consequences of environmental contamination and the long-lasting impact of nuclear accidents.